Good evening and welcome to Third Phase UFO Report. I am your host, Michael Roser, as we once again plunge into the anomalous nature of those unidentified crafts swirling and manifesting around our globe. With a multitude of physical evidence pouring out in regards to videos and photographs, one must stand back and observe this phenomenon as a whole before dismissing the notion that we are in possession of incredible meta-propulsion crafts and that we are being visited by otherworldly beings every day. So sit back, grab your favorite drink, and buckle up. Let's drop into the first sighting.
What the fuck is that? That's crazy, man. What the What is that?
As close as we can see this object, it appears to have spotted shadows covering certain areas of the outer layer, reminding me a bit of sunspots when highlighted by specific light spectrums. Of course, we are a short distance away from this vertically illuminated cylinder, and I doubt we are witnessing an atmospheric disturbance. Is it possible the light reflecting off this craft could be obscuring its entirety as a result of some type of refraction? I don't see any evidence of this object illuminated by the sun, reflecting off its smooth surface. The illumination itself seems to come from within.
So let's watch this once again. You could hear it in the voice, basically panic. And if you saw something like this in the sky in broad daylight, I don't blame the profanity bombs being dropped. Unfortunately, this is YouTube, so I did a little cut with those F-bombs. But the video speaks for itself. This is incredible as we're looking at this closer. Whatever this is undeniably a phenomenon in the sky, in my opinion. We're watching this once again, and let's take a closer look. As he opens up the shade curtain, we don't see any kind of reflection being beamed on it. So in my opinion, whatever this bright luminescent object is, it's out there, and you could hear it in his voice. He doesn't know what the heck is going on. Guys, welcome to Third Phase of Moon in this live premiere. I want to get your thoughts right now of what you think's going on here, because I don't have the answer for you. We're not UFO experts. We're just experts at getting the information out as fast as possible. And this is video evidence of something that, in my opinion, at this moment can't be explained. I got my brother Brent here, and I want to get his thoughts.
Yeah, this is wild footage, Blake. I'm digging what we're seeing here. This is an atmospheric phenomenon that we're not familiar with. Some people might mistake this for a UFO or something otherworldly. I'm not going to rule that out, but I am saying what we're seeing here is something that we can't explain.
What is just as curious is the way the emanating light scatters through a gray sky covered by the thickly layered stratus clouds. As a result of this, we find the light stretching a bit more than on a clear day, making the suspended object appear to glow. I often wonder, observing phenomenon such as what's been captured in this video, if these objects materialize all over the world, is this perhaps what people call seeing angels, or the Virgin Mary? The haloing effect is indeed stunning and might be quickly misinterpreted out of the realm of science into something more cultural. As Brent mentioned, we may actually even be witnessing something atmospheric, an unfamiliar pressure event in our skies, rarely forming or sustaining.
Some sort of weather prism effect in the sky, maybe a cloud being highlighted by something else. All I'm just saying is I've never seen anything like it. I am ruling out that this is CGI because of the fact of the curtain. We're taking a close look at this. We're going to do a little slow-mo, and that looks legit, guys. I'm thinking this is the real deal, and I like people that, just normal people that submit UFOs, get the word out with no hidden agendas. They're just people like us, me and you, that just want to get the truth out. And we're looking at something that's unidentified. We don't know what it is.
It's definitely some kind of shape, cylindrical shaped object. And what it's bouncing off of, this luminescent light, I have no idea. Is it solid object? Could it be some kind of illuminated drone? I don't think so. Guys, this is a head scratcher.
Without even reaching any sort of conclusion on what this object may be, it's an awesome piece of video evidence, capturing an intriguing broad daylight sighting.
Guys, take a close look. Coming in from a sky watcher.
Hang on a minute. Oh, we've got a very bright light on the horizon here. Just trying to figure it out. Is it a plane? No. Sorry. Just try the different IR settings, guys, just to see if I can get anything. Hang on. There's not a sound in the sky. Is it moving or is that still? Just going to keep the camera on this. Very odd, it's not even making a sound. It is moving. Hang on, just let me just get my camera in position. Come on. Trouble is when you're on a tripod, on the grass you get different levels. Bloody tripod falls over sometimes. It was moving towards. It was moving towards the electric pylon, whatever it is. Now it's moving away. It was moving towards it, very slowly. What I do, guys, with this, because I've missed it myself now, is just don't want the tripod to fall over, which it does sometimes. I'm on very bumpy grass. Just try the different settings. No, it doesn't help. All I can see that with me, with the eyes, guys, it's a large glowing light, really, like a big orb, not making a sound. I'm positive it was moving to my left towards the pylon, and it seemed to change direction and move back this way. So what I'm going to do, obviously, is get this footage together, but I've missed it myself, and see if we can speed it up after I play the proper footage and see if we can see it moving, changing direction, because I'm sure it did. And now we've got, now that flashing light to the right, that's a plane. Don't know whether two lights underneath it, they seem to be pretty steady, but that's a plane. So that's a plane. That's not a plane. If I'm right, I mean, I've checked, the ISS isn't due over, it's not the ISS. And when I check back on the footage, blah blah blah, if I'm sure that we're moving to my left as I'm looking at it towards the pylon, and then it changed direction. If that's the case, then it's definitely no satellite or anything like that. I'm facing in the wrong direction for it to be any aircraft landing lights. It's not. I hear that. It's not. I see them all the time, guys. I don't know what this is, but it's brilliant. It's what I'm coming out for. I'm all excited now. Hang on. Where are you going? It's just crossing it so slowly. It doesn't look high up. It's not way up there. In fact, when it was near the pylon and whatever, it looked really low down there. It seems to be going higher and higher. Just got to keep the camera on it, whether this lasts half an hour or whatever. So I'm gonna. It's not flashing at all. That is not flashing. There's not a sound. And I'm going to keep the camera on it because one of the main problems with when people film things, and I agree with it, is the footage cut short and you wonder what happened to the object in question. Did it shoot off, disappear, what happened? So we're keeping the camera on this one, guys. It's just silent there. I can't. Is it? Nope. It's not a noise. There's no flickering. There's no flashing. There's no. Never seen anything like that over here. You don't get aircraft landing lights like this over here. Definitely not. I'm ruling that out. What the hell is that? It was low down, you saw it. I haven't zoomed in or out anymore. Where is it? Oh god. And it just shot up. It's changed direction. I've lost it. Where is it? Is that it? Yes. Come on. Fucking ground. You can't get your tripod on the ground without it falling down. There we go. That's it, guys. It's just crossing. It's gone way out there. It actually starts. I don't know whether the cameras are going to. You're going to understand this on the camera. It went up quick. It started shooting off. It changed direction, and now it's just crossing the skies right above my head. There we go. Nope. It's definitely not flash. It's not plane. No plane can do that. What the hell is that?
This video is thought-provoking. Watching a glowing orb stationary at times, while at others, moving some distances with ease, undulating with a light through the Skywatcher's infrared night vision. Curious to see yet another sighting over power lines, where many have speculated these crafts seek purpose, either through electromagnetic fields or harnessing electricity through unobservable means. My first UFO sighting was over a set of power lines, not far from the Groton submarine base on the shores of Connecticut. Many times we can draw an association with these vehicles, especially when they consistently appear around locations with similar properties, nuclear facilities certainly included. The person filming mentions there is no sound associated with this object slowly crawling across the sky, and unless there is an anomaly in the topography in front of him, this craft is quite close to the ground. There seems to be a traffic control tower or airplane on the horizon, its small scintillating light piercing through the dark, allotting us some reference for the size of this glowing vehicle. Proximity is, of course, always taken into consideration, and in this video it is difficult to gauge just how far the cameraman is from the subject. That being said, when he mentions the plane flying into frame from the right, we have to wonder if the pilots and occupants were witnessing the same event as the Skywatcher was on the ground.
So let's look at this and speed it up right now. The video, 10 times speed. We're seeing the characteristics of this incredible bright orb that makes an appearance before a sky hunter. Sky hunters are people out there that believe that they could make contact. They're actually having their cameras ready all the time looking for UFOs. And in this case, this is extraordinary footage of when we heard that it just took off at incredible speeds. Look at this thing. It was just in close proximity to the surface. You could see it by the power lines, and then all of a sudden it takes off at incredible speeds. This evidence is striking, to say the least, and I want to thank Mike Proctor for sharing this. We're going to be supplying the original link below. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's capturing the anomalies, the phenomenon, and he says, guys, check this video out. I filmed it while sky watching, UFO hunting, and he says he was out there for about 2 to 3 days a week, and this thing seemed like it was watching him. He says it changed direction and then shot straight up and crossed the sky and changed directions again. He says he caught it all on film, and we just rolled the raw video as we do. And it is incredible to see in sped up video, to see that we don't see, again, any kind of indication of a FAA light. Nothing, in my opinion, if this was commercial, would look anything like this. This seems like it's an energy field, a plasmic energy, the typical orb, as people say, but this one's striking when we see the comparison to the electric lines and the pole. There's some substance to this, and being captured on video, how it shot straight up into the atmosphere was incredible. Brent, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, Blake, Mick Proctor has some good videos. He's been doing this for quite some time. He's got a YouTube channel. Check it out. We're going to leave that link in the description below. He's been a sky hunter for quite some time. I like the way he takes a patience to look at things in the sky and focus on it and give his judgment on what he's actually looking at. We're not there. We don't know what's really going on the ground, but I believe what he's saying. He seems genuine. Now, the big question is, what are we looking at? It's big. This thing's some sort of massive orb just kind of creeping across the sky, and we don't see it blink with any FAA lights or any of the sort. Doesn't resemble a drone on just the luminosity of this object. I like the way he takes the time, again, like I said, just to hang in there. When you're UFO hunting, sometimes it takes a lot of patience, and Mick Proctor's doing a good job.
Absolutely. Some people say, why don't you grab a tripod when you see UFOs? Well, you're seeing it right here. This is perfectly placed video with the tripod in comparison to the power lines, and this is about as good as UFO hunting gets, especially at night. This is an incredible capture here, digging it. And I, again, want to thank Mike Proctor for sharing this video with us. This is what it's all about. We're a community. We're all in it together. Sometimes we have our differences of opinions, but the fact is people are sharing their UFO evidence to Third Phase of Moon directly, coming in from around the world, because they know the world will be seeing the phenomenon right here.
I really appreciate how the person filming goes into his logical options first, such as a conventional craft, a satellite, or the ISS, only to remain just as befuddled as when he began to witness the phenomenon. In addition, I have to commend him for his attempt to film as long as he possibly could, expressing a frustration we all share when videos are cut short for one reason or another. This is yet another fantastic nighttime sighting.
Really odd what that is. Just moving really slowly in the middle of the field and keeps turning around. Oh, black thing on the front is now coming towards me. Went down to the trees and then went really high. Now it's going out towards oh, it's looking down again now. It's turned around because the car's gone down the hill. Oh, now it's starting to... oh, where is it? There it is. Now it's looking at that car. It's gone past. It's turning itself round. The black bit at the front. Oh, screw it up a bit. Because the car's just gone past again.
If this object is not anomalous and can be assumed to be some type of large balloon, oversized plastic bag, or possibly something weather-oriented, its ascent is incredibly curious. If it were riding along wind currents, I think we would see more wobble and the incline wouldn't appear so logarithmic. Speaking of, could that be significant in respect to how these vehicles operate? There would have to be some inclusion of mathematic foundation, perhaps even what we are familiar with, at least initially. The observers can do nothing more than follow and comment on its trajectory, and it somewhat reminds me of the first climb on a roller coaster. Could the sporadic and physics-defying movements of these crafts truly be a result of them working off specific electromagnetic grids emanating from the Earth? Now, this has been proposed many times over and may be the beginning of an explanation for these vehicles' unearthly sky dance. The observers clearly mention there is a blackened segment in the front of the craft, and at first glance, I was convinced this was merely a shadow. But as the footage continues, we can clearly see the black segment move around the opposite side of the vessel and then make its way to the back. This reminds me of some type of science fiction drone, but the object is enormous and is unlike any drone I'm familiar with.
Guys, I hope you're buckled in because, again, we have so many videos that's on the table. They're coming in at rapid fire, but here's a new one that we're looking at once again, coming in from the UK. You can hear in the woman's voice. She's intrigued by what she's looking at, and she goes into detail. That's what I like. She has a steady hand, but also is documenting what she's seeing via her voice and her statements. So it brings a lot of background to it. Again, what is this craft? It definitely looks metallic. It's shimmering there, and she's thinking that it might be following a car, or there's some intelligence behind it, that it has some kind of motive. Brent, what's your thoughts on this broad daylight sighting?
Yeah, this one's pretty wild, Blake. It almost resembles the Tic Tac. I like the way it just banked up there. At first, you just saw it kind of like skimming across the tree line there, and then this thing just skipped up, and now it's probably about 100 feet in the air right there, and it's just hovering. Kind of strange. I like the way the woman explains that she saw this black tip on this craft as well, and it creates this strange highlight that gives dimension and characteristics of whatever this thing is. Is it under propulsion that we're not familiar with? This strange kinetic energy that could keep something in the sky like this? We're looking at a phenomenon, Blake. This one's pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to say it is wild, and it's definitely not CGI. And that's what's interesting. Some people throw out the word CGI like the word swamp gas. And it's interesting that people come up with simple explanations. But as we're looking at this, I can assure you there's no CGI going on here. And this is legit footage. And we appreciate the person who shot this. The woman was very brave, and she did a really, really good job. As we're enhancing this, we could see that this craft is not like any kind of drone that we're aware of. Could it be a simple balloon? I'm not exactly sure. I don't think so. She seemed to say that it was under some kind of intelligent control, and it's quite large. What is it, guys? I want to get your opinions.
Thank you all for joining us tonight on Third Phase UFO Report. As these incredible videos continue to emerge, and we keep our eyes to the skies, one day, we may have a consensus on what we are seeing. Undisclosed technology, belonging to us from extraterrestrials, back-engineered from reconnaissance craft, or perhaps traded to us as with the purported Truman Agreement. Either way, we can certainly rest easy, knowing we are not alone in this vast universe of life. Stay tuned as we take a plunge into the world of the paranormal and esoterics, coming up next. Today, I'm out in Tewksbury at the Tewksbury State Hospital Cemetery, otherwise known as the Pines. Now, the curious thing about this stretch of land is that, albeit it's a very old and antiquated graveyard, but at the same time, some of these markers are sinking heavily into the ground. Check this out. I'm literally walking over them as they're marked with these small pink flags to indicate where they are. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you're going to trip. But this graveyard is incredibly unique because it is associated with the Tewksbury State Hospital, which opened its doors in 1854 and is still in operation today, believe it or not. One of the very last institutions in Massachusetts to still have its doors open in this capacity. Now, back to this particular area, all of these different monuments that you see here poking up and protruding from the ground are graves. There are 15,000 people buried within these woods that died either of tuberculosis, polio, some other sickness, violence, neglect, and a whole host of other experimentations that were going on as a normalcy back in the days when this was in operation to its fullest capacity. A very interesting place, to say the least. I do feel an overwhelming sense of peace and calmness while I'm walking through, although it's still very eerie to understand that I'm walking over grave sites right now that are very haphazardly marked. It was common practice many years ago that if a family member or friend did not claim your body and you had died in an institution, you would be left up to the responsibility of the institution to discard of your remains. Now, while some institutions have taken certain liberties, this particular area was dedicated to those nameless who had died in the asylum and had no friends or family to come and vouch for them. Just to give you a proper scope of what we're looking at here, every single one of those little medallions and pink flags indicate where somebody is buried. I will admit that I do feel a little bit of an ungrounded feeling, a little dizzy here and there. It doesn't feel bad in any way, just an overwhelming sense that you're standing in an area where there's a lot of energy. That's the only way I can really describe it. Not a sensation I get very often, and one of the reasons I'm equating this to being something more benign in way of energy, because it's not familiar, but it's certainly here. I'm absolutely overwhelmed by the number of medallions that are unmarked graves here in the cemetery. Absolutely overwhelmed. Every inch you step, there is a medallion. And of course, the indication is that there is a physical body underneath the soil, which of course doesn't make it more settling. This is really interesting. I've never been to a place quite like this. And again, it's unbelievable to know that these graves are unnamed people, and within certain records, we know that institutions have some issues holding on to those. Most times, we may never know exactly who was buried here. Right now, I'm in the Tewksbury Cemetery, which is different from the Tewksbury State Hospital Cemetery. And the reason I'm here today is because it's been reported that an apparition of a wisped, white-dressed lady has been seen roaming the grounds late at night and sometimes during the day. In addition to that, there's reports of a leathery, yellow-green skinned creature that prowls the grounds. This is very interesting and honestly sounds to me like a watcher spirit. I don't know why they'd manifest in such a hideous way unless it's to continue that guardianship in way of fear, keeping people out. But again, I pose the same question I've asked many times before. Why do we need a watcher in a cemetery? Why do we need a watcher spirit in certain places, and in others, they don't seem to be very apparent? Keep in mind that in some of these colonial graveyards, we have the very first settlers buried here still. So again, the history is incredibly rich, and I'm now in the older section of the graveyard, and I have to tell you, the energy changed quite a bit coming from the newer area into this more antiquated area. Now, this shift in energy, number one, it's a little cooler over here, which that seems to make sense in certain ways. I mean, you have a lot of trees and there's a slight breeze coming in, but there's a coolness that's sort of grasping onto my skin, if you will. It feels a little weird, feels a little unnatural, not something I'm entirely familiar with, because the cold is underneath my clothing. It's not like my skin is exposed to the open air. So with that in mind, I can't tell you that it's anything sentient, but I can tell you that it is something I'm experiencing here in the older area of the Tewksbury Cemetery. Just a quick thought that I've had in my mind for quite some time and never really visited. This is that a lot of these monuments are incredibly phallic in their design. I mean, could this be reminiscent of our understanding of certain sacred geometry, the energies that make up the yin and the yang, as we've seen in our architecture from modern day and civilizations long past? What is the purpose? Why wouldn't this be something more feminine in way of construct and geometry, rather than the masculinity still staying here with us, rather than the masculinity? All right, as I'm entering the veterans plots over here in the Tewksbury Cemetery, I'm starting to get the same sensation I just had at the Tewksbury State Hospital Cemetery, wherein I'm experiencing a little bit of that dizziness. The way I could say it, or at least expound upon it, is that it's right here, dead center in my third eye, and that's where I'm feeling that. It's strange, very strange. Not terribly disorienting, but enough to take notice. I'm on the grounds of the Tewksbury State Hospital, which of course is still in operation, and I'm making sure I'm very sensitive to that. This place, it's not necessarily the hospital itself that is drenched in this dark history. It's actually the almshouse that was here just before this turned into the Tewksbury State Hospital. Some of the stories that I read in way of neglect and what they were doing with certain medicines on the younger generation will make you sick to your stomach. In fact, they were carting out about 100 of these youngsters every year to be buried back in the Tewksbury State Cemetery. And of course, it's something that we still need to discuss today, because even though this is a different establishment at this point, it still has the imbued history. Ever wonder if there were underground tunnels here? This might be some proof of that. We know that many institutions had underground tunnels in order to transport patients, transport bodies, materials, goods, medicine, and many of them have been caved in to keep people out. That goes back quite some ways. Oh my God. Some very interesting stone rings around here. Well, I'm not really sure what these were used for, but there's certainly still remnants of whatever it was here. Maybe it was a fountain. This tree was probably around when they opened the doors to this institution back in the mid-1800s. Absolutely gorgeous. I was quite thrilled to be able to explore the extent of the campus, because many institutions that still have residents or patients do not allow you to film on site. Very recently, I decided to take a trek up to the Worcester State Hospital, and within 10 minutes of filming, I was approached by a security guard who indicated that not only could I not film any longer, and that he'd have to review all of the footage I had taken, but that I was also violating HIPAA laws. My last destination was a location I had intentionally avoided for some time, mainly due to the fact that haunted roads are often very difficult to investigate. Today I found myself driving down Dudley Road in Billerica, Massachusetts, famous for a spectral figure in colonial dress patrolling the road on horseback. My initial thought is of another allegedly haunted road, Route 44, where people have reported interacting with a red-headed hitchhiker. To be honest, every detail of that story seems to fall under cliché urban legend, and I have to wonder if the majority of these haunted roads perhaps follow the same avenue. The Ghost Rider of Old Dudley Road is not seen very often, and in this case we have only stories passed down through generations. But it's always worth finding out for yourself. We'll be back tomorrow with another deep exploration, so slap that like button, hit subscribe, and tap the notification bell. Ciao!